Hey everyone, this chapter opens up with a giant piece of advertisement for One Piece and Stampede. You got the Shonen Jump characters wearing pirate hats in the cover of Shonen Jump, and then we get this advertisement, very colorful advertisement slash color page for Stampede that makes me hungry.
Boa Hancock is there, and she's doing one of her classic Boa Hancock poses where she stands up in one leg and gives you a piece of her mind. But I think the fact that she's sort of angry at Smoker could be a continuation of the animosity that was established between the two characters back in Marineford. If you remember, the two characters fought briefly because Boa Hancock was trying to help Luffy get to the platform and Smoker was trying to pin him to the ground. We also got Buggy there, and I don't know if he's being force-fed by Luffy or if Luffy's trying to pull the food from out of his mouth. I think it's the latter, but anyway, I just think the false Buggy hype is hilarious. It's an ongoing gag, right? Because he became a Shichibukai, and then if you look at his post time skip design, it's like very menacing because he's like bigger and he kind of towers over people. But if you know his ability, you know that all he's doing is detaching his hands and attaching his hands to like a cape, right? To like a tent, and then it just makes him seem like that much bigger. But he's actually not that big of a deal. But it's like people buy into this, and that is the power of Buggy the Clown. Even Mihawk acknowledged this in Marineford when he saw Buggy. He said that clown has the most fearsome power on the seas, which is the power to create a sense of unjustified hype wherever he goes.
I like how you can tell that Law just doesn't want to be there to begin with. And I'm a little bit annoyed that this color spread came at a time that actually interrupts the Capone and Chiffon cover story, because I was very interested in that one. But I guess it makes sense because this should be the last time this happens for Stampede, because Stampede releases next week, August 9th in Japan. So I get it, it's promotional. You got to advertise the movie. It's also nice to see Lucci. Anyway, we opened up in the Flower Capital, and I believe this scene, coupled with what Law says in this chapter, is meant to sort of make the reader think that Law is going to betray Luffy and the Straw Hat Pirate Alliance because of what Fukurokuju says to Orochi. Is like, oh, we'll just torture him and make him talk. Betrayals are common amongst pirates. So I think I think that's what Oda wants us to think, that that's what Law will do. It's supposed to build suspense in our minds. Will Law betray the alliance? Will he not? Of course, I think he won't. We get introduced to the Mimawari Gumi, which is a reference to actual Japanese history, because the Mimawari Gumi was a police force that was created to keep the peace in Kyoto. And this police force was created after the country of Japan decided to move away from its isolationist policy, which is exactly the same type of policy that Luffy and the samurai are there to do away with. So much like in Wano, in the story, in actual real-life Japan, when the Mimawari Gumi was created, Japan was getting very chaotic. I also think that the guy who's at the front of the group, who has a ponytail, I think he could be a misdirection. I think maybe that's who Oda wants us to think Denjiro is. We get a conversation with Sanji and Shinobu where they're talking about how it's really unfair that 1,000 men are being kept in that prison, even though Yasu took the blame publicly for, he assumed the responsibility of him being the Witching Hour boy. So those men being kept in that cell, in that prison, doesn't make any sense, but they're keeping them there because they don't want to admit that Orochi was wrong. And then Shinobu talks a little bit about the Wano tradition, which is a reference to an actual Japanese tradition called Toronagashi, which is where the Japanese people kind of say goodbye, sort of mourn their dead by placing lanterns. And these lanterns are placed on the water, and they just kind of let them flow, kind of like the life of the dead flowing away, passing on. Now in Japan, there's actually two types of lanterns that are used for festivities there. The first one are ones that kind of float upward into the air, and the second one are the ones that you kind of place on the water that float away. So I'm kind of curious because these are called sky ships, right? Or sky boats. So I'm curious as to whether these lanterns are supposed to sail away in the water or fly up. Or maybe Oda can combine both of those things and have them do both. We also get to see these wanted posters that are drawn in the traditional Edo period art style. And I just have to say that Beppo's poster looks absolutely terrifying. And then Shinobu's poster is obviously completely outdated because the way that she looks there, that's the way that she looked back in her prime, back when she was a young and beautiful Kunoichi. And that's how the people of Wano remember her. That's the image that the people have of her. So her poster is just basically there for a gag. There's no point in it other than the gag because there's no way that they're going to be able to use it to identify her. It turns out that Beppo, Shachi, and Penguin were able to escape Hawkins. We find out later how that actually happened. But Beppo gives Nami the card of the Alliance with the cranes and the snake. And I've said this before, but I'll say it again here. I think that image is supposed to be a representation of Luffy's face when he's in Gear 4th. Except now, Beppo says that Tonoyasu was showing them a new picture. And so Nami looks at it and she notices that the snake has 2 lines on it. So it actually kind of gives it the impression that Luffy's face now has fangs. So there's something about the message that's changed. Then Nami leaves with Franky and Kanjiro, and Franky has like this tiger motorcycle. It wouldn't be the first time that Franky has a weird motorcycle. I believe back in Strong World, he was riding one that was like essentially a lobster. And what's kind of sad about that scene is that before Kanjiro leaves, you see the people of Ibizu Town congregating and they're grieving for Yasu, but they can't grieve, they can't cry properly because of the side effects of the smile. It turns out that Law turned himself in exchange for Beppo, Shachi, and Penguin's freedom. And he tells his crew, whatever you do, don't tell Luffy that I got caught. And the reason for that is because if you tell Luffy that Law was caught, Luffy's just going to be like, he's going to drop everything and be like, let's go rescue Law! And that's what Law doesn't want. And Hawkins and Law are both very, very smart characters. So I think whatever we see on the surface, there's something else going on. I think both of them have, a different agenda. They have a plan. We know that something weird was going on with Drake last chapter. We don't know what that was. But then again, I also think that Hawkins is a smart character too, and so I think he also has a plan. Like if I were Hawkins, first and foremost, I would probably question Law about why he decided to join the alliance with Luffy. Like Hawkins would probably say something like, you're the Surgeon of Death. You don't seem like the kind of guy that would make an alliance, so what is it about Straw Hat that got you there? And then maybe Law will hype Luffy up and make Hawkins think about something that he hadn't thought about before. Anyway, Usopp and Robin are pretending to be haunted by Brook so that they can leave. They can get on a boat and leave. And they do that, or they convince the people at the dock that they are not their wanted posters by making those cringe faces that we saw. We saw them back in Act 1, where they found out that Luffy had gone up against Kaido, had been one-shotted, and then had been imprisoned. And what's cool about this is that if you notice, Usopp's frog is also attempting to do the face, and it's the same thing in the chapter. So they successfully managed to smuggle Otoko away, and then we shift over to Kinemon and Inuarashi, who are being shown some ships by Shutenmaru, and they're going to get Franky to fix those ships. It's a very, very good-looking long panel of these ships. There's so much effort going into the detail of those old ships, which were ships that were used by the previous group of samurai that invaded Onigashima Island. And so I can't wait for the Fire Festival to start and for us to have like a scene, of these ships sailing across the shore, kind of like sort of Game of Thrones style, or kind of like D-Day style, just coming in for the invasion on Onigashima Island. And speaking of Onigashima Island, Big Mom is there, and she's busy eating dango. At first, I wasn't sure why they were feeding her to begin with. Like, why are you feeding the enemy? But I guess it's because they know that if she doesn't get what she wants, she'll just go on a rampage and go crazy. And the calamities are there.
And I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I think this chapter could potentially create a flame war amongst fans, because for the longest time, there's been this ongoing debate about who's stronger, the Yonko or the admirals, right? Do you put an admiral over a Yonko? Do you put an admiral beneath a Yonko? And you know, arguments, you know, against and for that. And so we get a little bit of information regarding that topic here in the manga with King's reaction to Big Mom. Notice that I'm seeing King's because we already saw Queen's reaction to Big Mom back in Udon, right? So the fact that King is first Yonko commander, and if you look at his expression, right? Look at King's expression and compare that to Jack's expression of determination, ambition, or like frustrated confidence, right? Where he's supposed to take back Doflamingo. He's supposed to rescue Doflamingo from this fleet of ships that is being sort of like, you know, supervised by Sengoku, Sudu, and Fujitora, right? Fujitora obviously being an admiral. He says, we have to do this. Who do you think I am? When a subordinate questions him. That's what Jack says. So if you compare that attitude to King's attitude and Queen's attitude, like, I mean, if you put two and two together, you can obviously tell that Yonko, I mean, at least in that sense, when you compare these two instances, Yonko are indeed worthy of creating concern, right, in the minds of Yonko commanders, as opposed to the situation where we saw Jack, you know, getting ready to confront Sengoku, Fujitora, and Sudu. Now, in the anime, and I have to say this because in the manga we did not see the attack go down, right? But in the anime, there's a moment where Jack says he commands his troops to pull up. He says, like, just pull up to them, get close to them. And in the anime, when Jack actually sees Fujitora, Sudu, and Sengoku, like, face to face, you know, because the scene where he's, like, really cocky about just, yeah, we're going to do this, we're going to take Dofi back, you know, that was from far away. But when he actually gets close to them, this is Jack's face, all right? I'm just bringing you the facts, all right? These are the facts. This is Jack's face. A definite shift from the previous confidence that he had. Like, the anime even shows his hand shaking. And again, it's only in the anime. This scene, this moment, does not exist in the manga. But let me know what you think this means. And Big Mom actually makes a very interesting request in this chapter, because she asks King to join her crew, because there's 3 races that she hasn't been able to collect, right, to recruit. We know one of them for sure, that's the Giants. And then the second one is whatever King's race is. What's interesting here, though, is that King was shown in the newest anime opening to have white wings. And so those white wings resemble the ones that the people from Skypiea have, you know, the race that came from the moon. Same thing with the Rouge, right? We've seen a Rouge before, and he has those wings. So during the Skypiea arc, Gonfall actually mentions that there's 2 ways of getting into Skypiea, 2 entrances. The first one is the Knock-Up Stream, which is the one that's the route that Luffy took, right? And then the second one, he calls the second entrance the Summit of High West, which we don't know anything about. So the fact that Big Mom is connected to Elbaf, and we know that she hasn't been able to get any giants, right, because of the problems she had because of her past, and now we find out that she hasn't been able to get the race that, you know, King belongs to. So I think this chapter makes it a lot more likely that there is a connection between Elbaf and Skypiea. In fact, there are theories about the possibility of Elbaf having a giant tree or a giant beanstalk that connects to Skypiea, and that, you know, Elbaf is the second entrance to be able to, you know, find a way into Skypiea. But that aside, it would make sense that if the Giants and the people from Skypiea have a connection, it would make sense why Big Mom has not been able to gain access to them, because there's a shared sense of animosity against her, right? And I'm also pretty sure that if there is a connection between Elbaf and Skypiea, once we find that out, that's also gonna bring out more information on that third and final ancient weapon that we don't know too much about, which is Uranus. Because remember, Big Mom said that if the deal had gone through with the Giants, right, if the marriage had gone through between Lola and Loki, she would already be king of the pirates. So yeah, that comment that she made to King just connected a lot of things in my mind. It connected Elbaf, it connected Skypiea, it even has, like, I think a little bit of a reference to the Void Century
because she says that, that race was supposed to be extinct, was supposed to be washed away, or wasn't supposed to exist anymore. So I guess the real question is now, which race do you think is the third race that she's missing? And then we finally get official confirmation about the fact that Big Mom and Kaido were in fact crewmates. They were in fact part of the same crew a long time ago. Rocks, pirates, flashback. I need that. I need that. Not to be mean about the whole Stampede promotional stuff, but I would have much rather had gotten a canon Rocks Pirates movie than the Stampede movie. But I guess that would spoil stuff in the manga, so that wouldn't make sense. But you know what I'm saying? Like, this is the stuff that I love about One Piece. The fact that, yes, it's Luffy's story, but it's bigger than that.
Hey, do me a favor and take these stupid cuffs off already.
You heard the woman. Take them off. But sir, take them off.
Kaido!
Mama.
Kaido!
Mama.
Kaido! Oh, Kaido, I have an idea. Let's pull a Shanks and a Whitebeard right here, right now. What do you say?
Let's do it.
Yonko Clash!
And they split the skies just like Shanks and Whitebeard because of their hockey. It was such a great moment. Just awesome. Although I do think that they're going to have to stop. They're going to have to stop fighting eventually. Otherwise, nothing will get done. But there has to be a conversation, a very juicy conversation in between that. Here's the thing about Yonko. I think that if either one of them were to offer like a team up, like let's say we should team up against Straw Hat, I think the other one would be offended. And that's the thing about Yonko is like they're like so confident. They're like, I don't need you. Who the hell do you think you're talking to about teaming up against that scrawny little insect Straw Hat? And I think if Oda wanted to keep things interesting, this would be a great moment to have the admirals show up in Wano. It's great. Love it. Great chapter of One Piece. Like the video if you did. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. And let me know in the comment section below, what do you think is going to happen? How is the story going to unfold now that the Titans are clashing? Clash of the Yonko has begun. Take care. Bye.